Good afternoon. My name is Jatin Nathwani, and I'm the Executive Director of the Waterloo Institute for Sustainable Energy, and it's my pleasure to make these remarks and give you this talk. I would like to take this opportunity to describe to you a major initiative that we have recently undertaken, almost as of this August, about 6 weeks ago, to address a compelling global humanitarian challenge of our times: migration and displacement that uproots so many people. Providing reliable access to energy services for basic human needs is one key part of the challenge, and to do so in a manner that is truly compatible with climate change goals is another. This is at the core of our thinking, and I'll outline a set of practical, robust, flexible solutions to deliver critical energy services to help mend broken lives, to create hope, purpose, and meaning in the lives of those less fortunate than ourselves, the displaced, the dispossessed, and the disenfranchised. According to the UNHCR, today there are some 70 million refugees and displaced persons in camps around the world, and many more on the move. Climate stress is beginning to add to this burden. Some often refer to them as climate refugees. And sadly, this is not a temporary phenomenon. A very large proportion of the refugee camps for displaced persons in existence today have been around for a relatively long period. And in many cases, the life expectancy of a refugee camp is anywhere from 20 to 30 years. The persistence of this problem forces us to ask a hard question. Can we not do something creative and truly innovative that could help matters? Surely, something out of our innovation toolkit can provide at least a partial answer. Off-grid energy solutions will, and in my view can, deliver effectively clean energy for electricity, clean water, sanitation, cooking, and transport, and of course support to educational and health facilities in and around refugee camps. We strongly share in this belief that neither accident of birth nor circumstances beyond one's control arising from either conflict or catastrophic climate-related extreme weather events should condemn a large number of people or of our fellow citizens to a continued life of despair and deprivation. We take a pragmatic view that a positive pathway out of a humanitarian crisis can be created to help mend broken lives of people affected by circumstances they have no control over. The threat of climate change is real here and now, and its impacts will manifest themselves in diverse ways. If the lens through which we view migration risks as driven primarily by conflict, war, and geopolitics, then it's about time we also acknowledge in no uncertain terms that climate stress is at the cusp of making a bad problem worse. Millions of migrants on the move, either fleeing persecution, floods, fires, famines, drought, rising sea levels, translate into social and political upheaval that we have not yet come to grips with. On the left hand or the bottom side of this image is a composite NASA satellite image of the world at night. It's a powerful reminder of the endemic global economic inequality. The areas of light and darkness are a stark reminder of those who have access to energy and those who don't. And without access to energy, the vicious cycle of extreme poverty remains unbroken. Energy access not only provides the quanta of light to stave off the darkness, but it is the launch pad for economic empowerment and education, a true light that can make a difference in the lives of many. Billions with no access to energy service, does it really matter? Well, without a doubt, some 2.6 billion people in the world, a third of humanity essentially, no access to clean cooking fuels and or electricity, of which 1.3 billion, half as many, are without any electricity access at all. And the consequences of this inequality are as clear and as disturbing as they are staggering. This is a picture of the global distribution of energy poverty and inequality. For example, if you only focus on health consequences, the total number of deaths, 4 million per year, actually 4.3 million per year by the World Health Organization, directly related to indoor air pollution. This level of mortality, this unacknowledged silent killer on a global scale exceeds the number of deaths from malaria, AIDS, and TB combined. That this tragic tale continues to maintain its grip, mostly in sub-Saharan Africa and developing Asia and parts of Latin America, is a matter of record, well documented, well rehearsed, but below the level of our collective consciousness for action. So, if we do nothing, by 2050, just about as large a proportion of humanity, approximately a third, will be without affordable electricity and clean cooking fuels. We launched a global change initiative, Affordable Energy for Humanity, in 2015, but to make this goal of energy poverty a footnote of history. There's a video, if we can show it here.
What we do here at Waterloo really is fundamental science and research, but with a focus on innovation and entrepreneurship. What can science and technological innovation do to change the equation in a way that makes energy affordable to the people who have very little?
We've got almost 300 remote and northern communities across northern Canada, and about 170 of those are First Nations communities. The electricity can end up costing close to $1 a kilowatt hour for these remote communities. So it is A, very expensive, and in some cases not even available.
How we can help is with two types of technologies. The first is renewable. And by renewable, we might mean solar or wind. The second technology is batteries, storage, energy storage.
It's really critical to be able to store renewable energy, ideally from solar power or perhaps from wind power, in affordable systems to allow for, in affordable batteries, to allow for load leveling and also for storage at night or even off-season storage.
There is actually a wonderful graphic that I often show, which is the image of the world at night. And you can see those areas of darkness and those areas of light. And it's very indicative of really those who have access and those who don't, and in fact how this drives a whole range of energy policy issues.
Being Waterloo, we're implementers, right? We like to say, let's make things work better.
So the technology is now coming into place, which allows us to put a panel on the roof, put storage, put efficient lighting, and you have the ability to transform lives.
We believe that we have come a long way. So we are providing leadership within Ontario, and we are basically leading some of the major efforts, and we're coming up with new ideas that were not there before.
Yes, scientific and technological innovations, but a whole host of other things have to come into play, particularly entrepreneurs and people who will take these solutions and scale them up and bring them into the context of the lives of the people as they live it.
Am I on to my next slide now? So we have put together a consortium of 50-odd entities. There are academic institutions, small, medium enterprises, corporates, NGOs, and government agencies in 30-plus countries with involvement of 150 plus thought leaders and practitioners. And we asked this simple question, I'm repeating myself, what can science and technological innovation do, combined with our expertise in governance and social innovation, to make this aspiration a reality, delete energy poverty. Energy access is the first step, a launch pad for education and a path out of extreme poverty. Accelerated deployment of clean, distributed energy solutions on a massive scale to reach the billions with no access, that's our ambition. Specifically today, I will focus on the role of energy and the essential requirement in support of humanitarian action. What can $100 million in change actually do? Well, quite a lot, but not nearly enough. Most refugee settlements are in remote locations, so humanitarian agencies consume large amounts of fuel for transport and electricity generation using diesel generators to support clinics, schools, food storage, water pumping, and street lighting. Estimates indicate that 5% of the humanitarian agencies' expenditures go to oil fuel cost and diesel generators. In 2017, the sector spent some $1.5 billion on polluting fuels, and examples of best practices show that the sector could save anywhere from $500 million upwards, equivalent to 5% of the UNHCR's funding gap. The caseload for humanitarian agencies from conflict and climate refugees continues to rise. The energy they consume costs more than it should and creates a dependency on oil that is environmentally unsustainable. A proven clean energy solution for this context helps to achieve carbon neutrality, reduce the budgetary pressures on the donor agencies, reduce the donor fatigue issue, and helps us scale up energy solutions that can reduce both costs and the carbon footprint. So here are my 10 commandments for success in the energy access field. Working with the Macarthur Foundation's 100 million and change challenge, we are aiming to touch at least 500,000 lives at refugee camps in 2 countries, Uganda and Kenya, in East Africa. We will provide access to clean energy solutions for electricity, cooking, clean water, and support to health and educational facilities nearby. So here are my 10 commandments. As I say, you meet 7 or 8 of these 10 and you come pretty close to some sort of a credible, practical answer. The technical plan is based on renewable, of course, local resources that will deliver energy services at what we call the Tier 3 level, the UN Sustainable Energy for All metric, Tier 3 level of reliability. And that, in simple terms, is 200 watts of power, a kilowatt hour of energy, and 8 hours of availability at the household level. And at Tier level 4, which is to support the health clinics and the educational support, you're looking at 800 watts of power, 3.5 kilowatt hours, 16 hours a day, 4 hours in the evening. So that's about the level of design constraint. The design system will then serve 500,000 individuals in these camps in remote areas with little infrastructure, and often there are real concerns about safety and security. So this is not a trivial challenge. And you may even ask, is this a fool's errand? Well, I don't think so. Yes, designing solutions that are in this distant, remote, difficult to reach locations with poor supply chains and a whole host of unique challenges that vary from one context to another is really not for the faint of heart. But you have to begin at the beginning and ask, what are the key metrics that we must satisfy to come anywhere close to success? And then some more to be sustainable and scalable over the long term. So these commandments are the guideposts, if you wish, for a difficult journey. We have built again a unique team for this Macarthur challenge that is multinational, multidisciplinary, and multi-sectoral, comprising leading academic institutions, enterprises, electric utility, and a deep practitioner network to succeed in providing a set of cost-effective solutions for application in a specific refugee context. That's what we're doing for this particular application, but our aspiration, of course, is global replication of solutions at scale. So to meet the challenge, of course, requires strong local partners backed by experienced experts. We draw strength from a multinational team combining scientific, engineering, and economic capabilities. So that's Waterloo, KIT, Oxford, Berkeley, and MIT, with the social sciences and the humanities based at IASS in Potsdam, Germany, and the Arizona State University. Our partners are enterprises delivering successful projects. Mandulis Energy in Uganda, Kenya Power, the utility in Kenya, TTAs out of Barcelona, Spain, several NGOs, USAID, MDA, and SSN. We also enlisted the commitment of several strategic advisors of some renown who bring thought leadership and critical knowledge of humanitarian interventions, governance issues, and business challenges. For example, Mandulis Energy has 20 years of experience in scaling sustainable energy solutions, working in humanitarian settings like with the UNHCR, including the Vatican. Kenya Power, a national utility, supplies power to the entire country, and they are familiar with both off-grid and on-grid solutions, and is aiming for universal energy access by 2022. TTA, again out of Spain, has a strong record over a 30-year time frame of delivering 300-plus projects for the World Bank, IFC, and others, not only in Africa, but all around the world. ADMA is a network of mini-grid developers currently operating in Africa who bring business-validated knowledge of field solutions. So our success is critically dependent on advancing the deployment of smart energy solutions to guarantee scalability and ensure social value of energy is embedded in the patterns of behaviors, and that we're fully sensitive to the cultural context and local insights. The solution comprises 4 buckets, pillars of success, if you might call it, but I'll just spell this out for you. Technology is one, community empowerment is another, the need for transport, e-mobility is another, and clean cooking. So we have developed a comprehensive plan for energy services to create a pathway for self-sufficiency and self-determination at the community level. Energy services for income generation is achieved through use of local resources. Integral to our technical plan are social innovations that advance skills development at all educational levels and ages, and advancement of learning through games for healthy well-being. It's a comprehensive plan that is not dependent on a one silver bullet answer to a complex set of requirements and needs. So let me fill you in the details around some of these pictures. Our plan, as I have mentioned, is for large-scale deployment of off-grid community empowering solutions that can be scaled up, multiplied, and eventually transferred into long-term living areas. The technology of an off-grid distributed energy system that uses renewable energy sources with no reliance on fossil fuels and with the capacity to integrate at varying levels of local resources such as solar, wind, mini hydro, biomass, agricultural waste, and of course including storage and microgrids that can be either AC, DC, or hybrids, featuring modular design, resiliency, robustness, and ease of transport. These are the key technical considerations to the design of the microgrids. And I've indicated to you that for households, we're looking at tier 3 level of service. That's 200 watts of power, a kilowatt hour of daily level of energy used per person, 8 hours a day. We can now begin to think of connecting households and communities at the edge of these sprawling camps. And some of these are nearly the size of a town, with populations ranging anywhere from 400,000 to 500,000 people. I mentioned community empowerment. Energy service beyond individual household needs will be at the Tier 4 level. This is well specified as well. Mobility, the issue that of how do you transport goods and people, at least within this context. The notion of an e-trike for mobility and charging facilities, and cooking through TLUD stoves. That's a powerful social innovation. I'll talk about that in a moment, that will help create micro enterprises and so on. A little bit of technical stuff, but not too much. We bring a strong capacity through our existing lab environments. This is here at Waterloo, KIT, Oxford, Berkeley, and MIT, to develop and test a robust affordable components for the IoT-enabled mini-grids that we're planning here, with the necessary sensors and devices and data analytics to enable smart energy solutions for improved performance and system-level scalability. Smart energy systems bring to the energy access toolkit a capacity for innovation to advance both hardware and software solutions. And in this example, a basic standalone module, let's say, with all the hardware, sensors, and control devices to serve 100 households, can be multiplied by a factor of 1,000, and operating in a plug-and-play mode becomes a low-cost, affordable solution for scaling. The mini-grid technology profile includes, of course, a solar battery charging system capable of distributed power over a low-voltage network, with a maximum radial length somewhere in the area of 1 kilometer or so from the solar array. We can provide higher levels of service at Tier 4 level. What we have also done as part of this, our thinking here, is that we've reviewed the latest work by the World Bank on mini-grids, and actually independently arrived at the cost structure and estimates for the budget purposes that turn out to be remarkably close. So we were not just singing in the rain, as it were. Imagine the challenge of performing surgery in this light when the diesel generators are not functioning. The challenge and unreliability of diesel generators as a source of power in remote, distant communities is well recognized. Now, instead of very expensive backup generation systems, how about this? It's a flexible, rugged platform designed to provide reliable DC electricity for any kind of environment where access to power is critical but unavailable. It comes with everything you need to provide: instantaneous power right out of a box, and this provides medical lighting all night long. What we have is that solar suitcase developed by We Care Solar, delivers light in the darkness, most difficult to reach parts of Africa, at a level of quality of an operating theater here in Toronto, here in Waterloo or in Toronto. Solar suitcases are a mobile, modular option that can be an effective low-cost storage for emergency use in health clinics and educational needs. It's actually quite simple: 2 20-watt light-watt solar panels, 2 high-performance rugged LED lights with unique connectors, PowerSonic battery, car charging sockets, universal 12-volt DC couplings, necessary hardware and cables. And the only problem is it costs about $2,500. So our challenge is to reduce the cost of that and increase the power density of the batteries and improve the solar performance in that battery, and you'd be further ahead if you can get that cost down by a factor of 5. Okay, no power and no internet, so what do? At WISE, we saw the promise here of Hitch and provided them some early support. The Hitch learning platform is a dynamic digital platform for educational and vocational training. built for African schools and operable without the need of power or internet. It's a machine-based interactive learning tool for underserved markets, low-income schools, refugee camps, and remote locations. Most of these users are not served by existing coverage and service infrastructure and live in rural and urban areas in emerging markets. Hitch is really a Waterloo-born entity from here. What it does is provide, in essence, an enhanced smart wireless mesh router that enables communications to build, operate, and sustain self-contained internet platforms and accelerating the sustainable broadband in emerging markets. Hitch has worked at schools in Nigeria to help them deliver intelligently affordable educational video content straight to the classroom. They are near full-scale commercial breakthrough as a company. So it'll be another Waterloo success story. So once we have the content, the option is there then to light up the minds. This is the true tragedy of energy poverty. The burden of fuel wood collection falls disproportionately on women and young girls, consuming in excess of anywhere from 6 to 8 hours per day to support families' cooking and heating needs. Time, the most important asset available to any person, any one of us, and here is taken up, practically stolen, in my view, in the struggle to meet basic needs. So, if you have a handful of dry beans or cassava or a handful of maize flour to make a meal, you require energy. I'm aware of recent developments around electric solar cookers, but we have some ways to go, and the system requirements or provision of higher levels of electricity for cooking can be prohibitive. So cooking is a non-electric option as we are pursuing it. And what we're looking at here is a TLUD stove, and the idea behind this is an earn-as-you-cook empowerment for women. I'll tell you about TLUDs in a moment. What we're really trying to do is conversion of biomass and agricultural waste as fuel for cooking into biochar for use as soil fertilizer and other useful products that it generates income and reduces the need for subsidies by humanitarian agencies. This is an environmentally sustainable, virtuous cycle that delivers both income and climate mitigation all in the same act. TLUD stands for top lit updraft. Most cook stoves are bottom lit updraft. TLD is in essence a microgasifier that reduces fuel consumption by up to 75% compared to a 3-stone open fire. It's a stove with a canister, and when filled with fuel, this is dry biomass waste like twigs or coconut husks or carpentry waste or cow dung and so on, and combusted, it will enable cooking for an average of 30-odd minutes. As it produces, valuable, precious charcoal at the end of it that can be used for commercial purposes. A kilogram of fuel use can, with the 30% yield, will yield about a half a kilogram of biochar. So what you see here is a shiny version of a TLUD that would cost about $50. But cheaper versions, as in the picture before, can be designed and manufactured. Use of a 1-gallon paint can or a 5-gallon pail, you're looking at $10 to $20, $25 to manufacture these TLUD stoves. And about 2 kilograms of animal dung can yield about 40% biochar wood chips for half an hour of cooking or so. So the value generated by biochar and biochar blended products can yield anywhere from 10 cents to perhaps $10 per kilogram, depending on where you are in the market. So in simple terms, we've really tried to turn this challenge of the need for cooking and heat on its head. TLD is not just another cook stove. Earn while you cook. There is a business model behind this proposition. It's a gasifier cook stove. It's a certified carbon asset, actually. Green charcoal is what it translates things into. And it's an innovation that is a unique business model that has been proven, can be tested against relevant social metrics such as energy efficiency, livelihood creation, deforestation, and healthy well-being. It's scalable and it's replicable. So TLUD stoves provide this earn-as-you-cook empowerment for women as artisanal creators of livelihood sustenance and development of micro enterprises, and perhaps reduce the pressure on the humanitarian agencies for provision of subsidies. And it's an environmentally sustainable virtuous cycle, as I mentioned before. Let me touch on the energy, water, food nexus. For example, registered refugees in camps in Uganda are provided with a plot of land, a positive step, but with all its challenges of dry land and the difficulties of getting some useful agricultural outputs. What I show here is a pump designed by, this is Katie Taylor at MIT, a student with her co-founders, founded a company called KethWorks. Now this is a simple centrifugal pump with 3 times the efficiency of a similar sized pump. That means that it could be powered by 1/3 as many photovoltaic panels, by far the most expensive component of such a system. So this reduces the cost, makes the system portable so farmers can rent it out and sustain economic livelihood without having to abandon homes and farms. So let's see if we can not only adapt this to the situation of interest here in refugee camps that I'm describing for humanitarian action. Whether you're pumping water as an assist to a farmer or to meet basic needs of clean water within proximity of a refugee camp, a pump that is 3 times more efficient, requiring 1/3 as much energy, is one positive pathway. I often say electricity is ordered energy, and ordered energy is magic. It has extremely high value in enabling fundamental transformative change. For example, the maximum power this gentleman on a bicycle can generate is no more than 100 watts, and if he rides the bicycle continuously and strenuously for 15 hours, he can generate the equivalent of a kilowatt hour of energy, and that's about 10 cents worth of electricity in our world here. So the opportunity cost of time is obvious, and whether the weight range is $2 per hour or $2 per day or $10 per hour, you can just see that generating electricity by pedaling is not a valuable use of time. But people have to resort to that. A solar-powered e-trike is part of our solution package within the budget to assist with transport of goods and reduce dependence on fossil fuels. Similarly, a solar tractor, now actually available even in Canadian markets, points to pathways for sustainable solutions. I've shown you enough components or building blocks of solutions that only require a little bit of creativity and adaptation for different contexts. And it's a simple exercise then in connecting the dots. While we solve problems and difficulties, it's also worthwhile to know that perhaps we can begin to think in terms of how you create a sense of community in a difficult situation, and perhaps solar kiosks as businesses and people getting together is one answer. Let me begin to conclude, and I'd like to emphasize that energy is linked to life quality is as compelling as it's clear. The world's primary energy generation is a gargantuan amount of some 17 terawatts of this is in electricity units, or upwards of 550 exajoules annually. Here I show a metric that's actually easy to remember, and it provides a useful anchor. Annual GDP per person per capita on the left, and annual kilowatt hours of energy requirement per person on the right. At the bottom of this ladder is what lack of energy access delivers, a quality of life that is truly an offense to our scientific and technological capacity to deliver. An annual energy consumption level below 100 kilowatt hours per person and income levels at less than $100 per capita, life is short, brutish, nasty. And so we need to be able to make change and change fast. All of sub-Saharan Africa, parts of Latin America are at that stage, 10 kilowatt hour excess annual per person, 50 to 100 kilowatt hours per person access, and at very low levels of income. So my strong belief that if you can get this anywhere up to the 1,000 kilowatt hour per person access annually, that it's a pathway to a better life. So universal energy access, our goals and objectives are clear and simple. We want energy services to be affordable. And so energy poverty can be relegated to a thing of the past. We want to be judged by future generations in a positive light. A global environment that meets the needs of future generations without compromising our own. So, of course, we look for your support, help in trying to get us there. And I go on to argue that energy access is at the core of any strategy to deliver a better quality of life. The UN Sustainable Development Goals constitute a roadmap and a rational construct to deliver the lofty goals on global well-being for every global citizen. So, and why not start here? If not, when? Thank you very much for your attention, and I'll take questions if you have any.
Hi, Professor. I just had a question about the stove that you were talking about. So I know you said that it helps generate income because it produces charcoal.
Biochar.
Yeah. And so I just wondered how that produces income and sort of like where you can
So,
sell that.
imagine you have a 3-stone open fire and you collect some twigs and you get a fire and you cook. And then that ash is just wasted, right? There's nothing there, nothing of value. And so it's just that kilogram of wood sticks give you whatever it does in terms of thermal energy. Now then, because it's a gasifier, really, it's a micro-gasifier, that TLUD stove. And what it does is it generates biochar, and biochar then has economic value. And I showed one slide where charcoal actually has 52 other uses, but that's a level of detail. And so if you start with 1.5 kilograms of, just say, pieces of wood or stick, and it generates 30-40% efficiency of biochar, you can sell that half a kilogram for a certain value, and it will vary across where you're trying to sell it. In the United States, you'd get about $10 per kilogram. In Africa, you'd probably be lucky if you get $1. But nevertheless, it has economic value. So the point to recognize is that in the very act of needing energy, using energy for a purpose that you need it for, you've also in parallel created a pathway for economic empowerment. And since this burden falls on women most of the time, they tend to be the people in the household who look after the interest of the family. This is one pathway out, and it's a little bit of income. Not much, but some.
Thank you.